Sarah used to light up when she talked about work, not just the actual projects, which sounded like a foreign language to me half the time, but the people too. She'd come home with stories about Prisha from data analytics or Jonah who ran their TikTok campaigns and kept a drawer full of vintage snacks at his desk. There was a time I'd hear all their names so much I felt like I could pick them out in a police lineup. But about a month ago, the names started to taper off. I didn't notice at first. I was working long shifts, filling in for a guy who quit without notice. It wasn't until I saw her getting ready one Friday evening, hair curled, eyeliner sharp, that it clicked. She had that half-rushed, half-excited energy that people only get when they're going somewhere they actually want to be. "You look great," I said genuinely. "Hot date." She smirked at me in the mirror. "Work thing." "Late meeting." "Kind of a team celebration. Our numbers hit a crazy milestone." "Oh nice." I leaned against the doorframe. "Where's it at? Should I get dressed?" She paused, and that pause was loud. "It's just work people," she said, brushing mascara onto her lashes. "Very casual, probably just drinks and chatting about metrics. You'd be bored out of your mind." I nodded, but something in my chest folded up. I didn't push. She left in a rideshare with perfume still hanging in the hallway, and when she got back around midnight, tipsy and glowing, I didn't ask how it went. She didn't offer either. The next week I saw the pictures. Not from her, she didn't post any. But I was on Instagram during a break, scrolling mindlessly, when I saw a tagged photo from one of her coworkers. They were at a rooftop bar downtown, champagne and tiny hors d'oeuvres, all dressed like they'd stepped out of a commercial. Sarah was in the middle, laughing at something someone said. It looked like a party. Not a casual drinks about metrics thing, a real, honest-to-God party. DJ lights, cocktail dresses, open bar, the kind of event where you get introduced to plus ones and make awkward small talk and eat mini crab cakes with a toothpick. And I wasn't invited. I tried to play it cool. That night I brought it up gently. We were eating takeout on the couch, something with too much garlic, and I nudged my phone over to her with the photo open. "Looks like it was a fun time," I said, keeping my voice easy. She glanced at the screen, then at me. "Oh yeah, I didn't know they were going to post anything." "Big milestone," I said, surprised they didn't do speeches or something. She stabbed a piece of broccoli with her fork and didn't meet my eyes. It was pretty low-key. "You look amazing in that dress." She smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Thanks." There was a quiet stretch, not tense, just blank, like two people sitting in different rooms, even though we were side by side. I wanted to ask why she hadn't brought me. I wanted to ask what about me made her think I wouldn't fit. But I didn't. I just chewed through the silence, tasting everything except the food. 2 weeks later, it happened again. This time she told me in advance, said they were having a small team thing at the office, a catered lunch, nothing formal. "No plus ones?" I asked, testing the waters. She hesitated. "Not really, it's during the workday." But that night she came home with a branded tote bag, a gold wristband still on her arm, and a faint smear of glitter on her neck. "You wear glitter to a team lunch now?" I teased, trying to keep it light. She looked in the mirror like she hadn't noticed. "Oh, I think it was from the photo booth. They had props." "You said it was low-key." "It was," she said too fast, "just fun. Everyone was blowing off steam, no big deal." But I knew better now. I wasn't just being left out, I was being left invisible. It all came to a head the night of the big one, the end-of-quarter bash they'd been hyping up for weeks. I overheard her on a call with someone, talking about a dress code and valet parking. She said the phrase, "soft launch of our rebrand," and executive teams flying in. I waited until she hung up, then asked casually, "So, big event Friday?" She gave me a smile that felt like it was wrapped in bubble wrap. "Yeah, just kind of a company showcase thing, not really a party." "You getting dressed up for it?" "Just a cocktail dress, it's more business formal." "Do I need to dry clean anything?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" "If I'm going, I should probably not wear oil-stained khakis." And there it was, that second pause, the one that speaks louder than yelling. "Babe," she started, it's going to be a lot of execs and board members and like PR teams. I don't want you to feel out of place." I sat back. "Out of place?" "I mean, you're amazing, you know I love you, but it's a different world, you know." "No," I said, "explain it to me." She looked genuinely uncomfortable. "It's just, you're not really the kind of person I can bring to these things without worrying." Worrying about what? She winced. About you saying something weird or making a joke that doesn't land, or just not knowing how to network. It's not your fault, it's just not your thing. My stomach dropped. So I'd embarrass you. She didn't answer, which was its own kind of answer. I didn't sleep much that night. She went, of course, left in a black car service looking like something out of a catalog. I watched from the window as the taillights disappeared. And then I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my own reflection in the window glass. I didn't see a clown. I didn't see someone who couldn't network. I saw a man who fixed people's cars for a living, who paid rent on time, who held her hair back when she was sick and made her tea when she had cramps and listened when her boss chewed her out for things she didn't do. But apparently I wasn't enough. Not shiny enough, not brandable enough. Just embarrassing. It hit me hardest the next morning when I checked her phone by accident. She left it on the nightstand, alarm buzzing. I reached to shut it off. Screen lit up with a group chat notification. The name was Brand Baddie's Nail Polish. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. One message caught my eye. Jonah, still can't believe Sarah's BF isn't coming. Elmao, you dodged a bullet. Face with tears of joy. Prisha, right, he gives off such dad energy. Weary face. Sarah, TBH, I just couldn't deal with his car talk in front of the CMO. He means well, but. That was it. He means well. That's how she defended me. Not he's great, not he's smart, not even he's sweet, just he means well. I didn't confront her that morning. I didn't trust myself to speak without shaking. Instead, I showered, got dressed, packed a lunch, went to work, spent 8 hours elbow deep in a transmission rebuild. Every bolt I turned felt like a question. Who am I to her? What do I look like through her eyes? Just someone who means well. Someone she can't bring around her real life. Someone she's ashamed of. That night, she came home and started telling me about the party like nothing was wrong. Gushed about the ice sculpture and the custom drinks and how someone spilled a Negroni on the product lead's shoes. I nodded in all the right places. And when she paused to ask if I was okay, I just said, "Sure, I mean well." Her face went still. Then I stood up, grabbed my keys, walked out. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't sit in that apartment and pretend anymore. I wasn't invited to my girlfriend's work party because she said I'd embarrass her. I ended up in the parking lot of a diner I used to go to after high school football games. I wasn't a player. I was the guy in the back of the crowd holding a wrench, fixing the team bus when it stalled. But the waitress always gave me a free refill, and sometimes that felt like a bigger win than the one on the scoreboard. It was a Tuesday night, nearly 10. The lot was almost empty except for a beat-up Civic and a guy smoking behind the dumpster. I slid into a booth by the window and ordered a black coffee and a slice of whatever pie they had left. It was banana cream, lukewarm, and exactly what I needed. The thing is, I wasn't angry in the way you'd expect, not even heartbroken. It was quieter than that. Like when your car runs fine but you can hear something small rattling under the hood. You don't pull over immediately, but you know something coming, a bigger sound, a breakdown, maybe worse. I stirred the coffee slowly, watching the cream cloud and swirl. In my head, I kept rewinding that group chat, Jonah laughing, Prisha calling me dad energy, Sarah with her passive little grimace emoji. I mean well. It looped so hard in my skull, I started mouthing it without realizing. That's what you say about a guy who fumbles through first dates or gives awkward gifts, not someone you've shared a bed with for 2 years. Not someone you love. If she even still loved me. I didn't go home that night, just texted. Me, I need some space, don't wait up. No reply. The next morning I was back in the shop by 7. I stayed late, offered to cover someone else's shift, said yes to every customer who came in, even the ones who smelled like mildew or argued about prices they found online. I didn't care. Grease under my fingernails made more sense than whatever was happening at home. She called around 9 that night. I let it ring. Then again at 11, and again the next morning. By the third call, I texted back. Me, I'll come get my stuff this weekend, don't worry. That time she responded. Sarah, can we please talk first? I didn't answer. Because what was there to say? She'd already said it to her coworkers, to her friends, to herself. On Friday, I took the day off. I drove back to the apartment with 2 empty duffel bags and an old laundry basket in the trunk. I didn't tell her I was coming. I didn't have to. She was at work, probably holding a ring light in one hand and a cold brew in the other. The place was exactly as I'd left it, except emptier. Not physically, all my stuff was still there, but it felt like no one had lived in it since that night, like we'd both become ghosts with keys. I didn't pack fast. I took my time, folded every shirt, wrapped my socket set in 2 towels, took the picture of us at the beach off the fridge and slid it between 2 flannels so it wouldn't bend. Midway through, I stopped at the counter where her laptop sat. It was open. Slack was still logged in. I hesitated. I wish I could say I didn't look. But I did. There was a new message from Jonah. Jonah, so, any fallout from the boyfriend situation TM? Sarah, he left. I think he's staying with someone from work. Jonah, yikes. Sarah, it was bound to happen. He's not career compatible. Jonah, that's a thing now. Sarah, it is when you're aiming higher. Then, Jonah, wanna grab drinks tonight, talk strategy, winking face. Sarah, maybe, need to clear my head. I closed the lid harder than I meant to. Then I laughed. I don't know why, maybe because career compatible sounded like something a robot would say while rejecting a dating app match. Maybe because I'd given 2 years of my life to someone who thought love was only valid if it came in a blazer with stock options. Or maybe I laughed because the pain had finally calcified into something less sharp. I didn't belong in that apartment or in her future. She made sure of that. I moved into my coworker Greg's spare room that night. He didn't ask questions, just pointed to the fridge, the shower, and the Wi-Fi password written on the back of a gas bill. Rent's due first of the month, he said, but don't sweat the first week. I nodded and dropped my duffel on the floor. The room smelled like cedar and old gym socks. The mattress had a spring that poked my hip if I rolled too far right, but I slept like I hadn't in weeks. No glitter in the sheets, no perfume cloud pretending to be a relationship, just quiet. And for the first time in a while, I woke up without bracing for a text that would sting. Sarah didn't call after that. But she did post. Pictures started trickling in, not of Jonah, not right away. Just solo shots, her at a rooftop yoga class, her at brunch with the girls, her in a business casual power stance outside some networking event. But the captions were louder than the images. Fresh starts. Leveling up. Protecting my peace. Each one like a brick sealing the wall between us. I didn't comment, didn't like, didn't unfollow, just watched. And that silence said everything. Greg invited me to a barbecue a few weekends later. His cousin was in town and they were grilling ribs and playing cornhole in the driveway. I almost said no. The idea of meeting new people felt like touching a hot stove after getting burned, but something in me said I needed it. That's where I met Julia. She didn't work in marketing, didn't say things like brand synergy or career compatibility. She taught 5th grade, talked with her hands, had nail polish chipped from grading papers too fast, and when I told her what I did for a living, her eyes lit up. Wait, you fix cars like all of them? I've been trying to get someone to look at my Altima's weird rattle for weeks. I laughed. Weird rattles are my specialty. We talked for 2 hours, sitting on a cooler in the garage while other people played beer pong and argued about football stats. And not once did I feel like I needed to perform. I was just me. Grease stains and all. I didn't text Sarah that night, didn't check her socials, didn't wonder what she was doing or who she was with. Instead, I went home to Greg and made a mental note to check out Julia's car the next day. Not because I was trying to win someone over, but because I wanted to help. And for the first time in a long while, that felt like enough. I wasn't invited to my girlfriend's work party because she said I'd embarrass her. A week later, I was under Julia's car in her driveway, flashlight balanced between my shoulder and cheek, grease on my knuckles, her curious voice floating above me. Is that a good noise or a bad noise? I let the wrench rest against the frame and smiled. Depends if you like metal on metal grinding. She let out a mock gasp, so death trap. More like mild liability, I said, sliding out from under the car. Your sway bar's loose, nothing catastrophic, but I'd tighten it before you take this thing on the highway. Her face relaxed, so I don't need to start drafting a will. I stood up, wiped my hands on a rag. Not unless you've got some very grateful nieces and nephews. Julia grinned and handed me a lemonade she'd made while I worked. It was homemade, not the powdery kind, tart, pulpy, with a hint of mint. We sat on the porch after, shoes off, watching the sun stretch long shadows across her overgrown lawn. It felt simple, unforced. She didn't ask about Sarah, I didn't bring her up. But I was thinking about her anyway, or rather, what I used to think was us. I kept flashing back to those moments where I talked myself down. Times she corrected the way I held my fork at dinner with her coworkers. Times she laughed a little too hard when I misunderstood a meme. The way she once called my boots costume-y when I wore them to her startup's open house. I thought that was just growing pains, two different people finding middle ground. But maybe I was the only one doing the walking. That night, Greg was already passed out when I got home, sprawled across the couch with a pizza box on his chest. I stepped over the dog and grabbed a beer from the fridge. I didn't open it, just held it. Then I opened my phone. Sarah had posted again, this time it wasn't subtle. Her and Jonah at a wine bar, sharing a cheese plate and a caption. Some people just get it dizzy. I sat there staring at it, thumb hovering over the screen. No surprise, no heartbreak, just a tired kind of recognition. I closed the app. She could have it, all of it, the rooftop parties, the inside jokes, the filtered compliments wrapped in passive aggression. I was done trying to speak a language I never learned. A few days later, I got a text. From her. Sarah, hey, just found some of your tools in the closet, want me to drop them off? I stared at the message for a long minute before replying. Me now, I'll swing by. I didn't want her anywhere near my stuff, not the tools, not my life. We agreed on a time, Saturday noon. She said she'd leave them by the door so we wouldn't have to talk. That suited me just fine. But when I got there, she was waiting. Hair perfect, outfit curated, lip gloss that looked expensive. The tools were in a clear bin at her feet, like a yard sale she couldn't wait to get rid of. Hey, she said, folding her arms. I nodded, thanks for not tossing them. She gave a weak smile, I'm not a monster. I didn't reply. She watched me lift the bin, I could feel her wanting to fill the silence. And she did. I didn't mean to hurt you. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time I wasn't seeing her through the old lens. I wasn't seeing the woman I made excuses for. I was seeing the woman who'd been embarrassed of me, who laughed with her coworkers behind my back, who chose image over intimacy. You did though, I said quietly. She blinked, it wasn't like that. You said I'd embarrass you. That's not fair. It is, I cut in, you didn't say it in a fight, you said it because it was true for you, you didn't think I belonged in your world. She bit her lip, you never tried to understand mine either. I did, I said, you just didn't notice. That landed. I turned to go. Then paused. You know what hurts the most? I asked without turning around. She didn't answer. It's not the party, it's not even Jonah, it's knowing that I kept showing up for you every day even when I didn't understand you, and you couldn't do the same. I didn't wait for a reply, I walked down the stairs and out of her building for the last time. Life didn't magically get better after that. I still had bad nights, still had moments where I saw a post or smelled a perfume that tugged something deep in my chest. But I was moving. Greg and I found a bigger place. He wanted a garage, I wanted a little backyard. We compromised on both. Julia started coming around more often. She brought weird snacks and old books and made playlists for my workbench. One night she fell asleep on the couch with grease smudged on her cheek. I didn't wake her. She belonged there. Not because she had the right job or the right circle or the right career compatibility, but because she didn't look through me. A few months later, I got a voicemail. Sarah. Her voice was flat, practiced. Hey, just wanted to say I hope you're doing well. I saw that old diner we used to go to and thought of you. That's all. Take care. I didn't call back. There wasn't anything left to say. She had her world now, all glossy edges and curated captions. I had mine, rougher maybe, but honest. And full of people who weren't ashamed to be seen with me. I wasn't invited to my girlfriend's work party because she said I'd embarrass her. Fall came in slow, like it had something to prove. The air got sharper, crisper, the kind of air that makes you roll the windows down just to feel it. The sun started dipping earlier and the light turned gold in that nostalgic way it does, like it knows it's not going to last much longer. I started getting more clients at the shop. Not just the usuals with leaky hoses and busted brake lights, but word-of-mouth types, teachers, freelancers, a woman who sold candles out of the trunk of her car, a high schooler trying to keep his Civic alive long enough to get through senior year. I didn't know what changed. Maybe it was my mood, or maybe I just stopped carrying around that invisible weight of trying to be good enough for someone else's world. Either way, I had more work than I could handle, and for once, I didn't mind staying late. Julia would drop by sometimes, sit on a stool in the corner with a Diet Dr. Pepper and her grade book open. Occasionally, she'd read her students' answers out loud to make me laugh. "Listen to this one," she said one night. "The U.S. Constitution was written in cursive to make it harder for teenagers to read." I laughed so hard I dropped a wrench on my foot. She was like that, funny in a way that didn't try too hard, comfortable without needing a stage, and she never once tried to change me. The first time she said she liked the smell of the garage, kinda like a fireplace and motor oil had a baby, I didn't know whether to kiss her or buy her a trophy. One night in October, I got invited to a potluck. Not by Julia, by Greg. He'd joined a bowling league and swore the people were cool as hell, and he wanted to introduce me. I almost said no. I still had this scar tissue about group events. Even now, my brain flicked back to rooftop bars and unspoken dress codes. But Greg wouldn't let it go. "They're not startup types," he said. "No talk of NFTs or VC or KPIs." I raised an eyebrow. That was a lot of acronyms. He shrugged. "I've been listening to tech podcasts, to date smarter." I laughed and agreed. The potluck was held at a bowling alley with wood panel walls and vending machines that hadn't worked since 2003. It smelled like nachos and spray cleaner, and someone had duct-taped googly eyes to the automatic scoring system. And I'll be damned if it wasn't the most relaxed I'd felt in months. I brought baked mac and cheese, nothing fancy, just elbow noodles, cheddar, and the right amount of crunch on top. I half expected someone to judge it, to whisper about it being low effort or comfort food. But instead, a guy in a Nirvana shirt went back for thirds and said, "You're the Mac guy now, don't mess that up." It felt like being let in without having to pass a test first. Julia showed up late, arms full of Tupperware, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked around for me before even setting the containers down. "Hey," she smiled like we'd just seen each other 5 minutes ago. "You made it," I said. "I promised I'd defend your mac and cheese with my life." "You don't have to." She already had a fork in her hand. We spent the rest of the night bowling badly, eating too much, and laughing at Greg's attempt to flirt with a woman who turned out to be married and proud of it. Nobody cared what we did for a living. Nobody asked where we saw ourselves in 5 years. Nobody used the word personal brand. It was perfect. That night, after we got back to her place, Julia and I curled up on her couch. She had a candle lit, vanilla and tobacco, and her feet tucked under my leg like they belonged there. She looked up at me with this kind of sideways glance, like she'd been thinking about something all night. "What?" I asked. She hesitated. "Can I ask you something kind of personal?" I nodded. "Have you ever been with someone who made you feel like you were an accessory to their life?" I stared at her for a beat. "You mean like I was just part of their image?" "Yeah, like you fit the aesthetic but not the heart." I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "Yeah, once." She didn't press, just rested her head against my shoulder. And for the first time, I felt the wound close a little more. A week later, I bumped into Sarah. It wasn't dramatic, no fireworks, just awkward proximity in a hardware store of all places. I was picking up paint for a cabinet project Julia and I had started. She was in the aisle behind mine. I only saw her because she turned the corner and stopped like she'd hit a wall. She looked different, not bad, not better, just more polished than I remembered. Hair straighter, clothes tighter, smile stiffer. "Hey," she said. "Hey." I didn't ask how she was, she didn't ask about me. Instead, she glanced at the paint can in my hand and asked, "Home project?" "Girlfriend's kitchen." She nodded a beat past. "Then you look good." I nodded again, "Thanks." There was a pause. Then she said it. "You seem different." I let that sit for a second. "I am." She gave a small smile like she was trying to pretend she was happy for me, or maybe she actually was, but it didn't matter. Because for once, I didn't care what she felt. I just felt free. Back in the car, I sat with the engine running and let myself breathe. It hit me how little weight she carried in my chest now, how quiet her name had become. There was a time I would have replayed every word of that conversation, trying to decode it. But now I just wanted to get home and finish painting. Julia had a playlist queued up. Greg promised to stop by with pizza. The cabinet doors were laid out on a tarp, waiting for their second coat. And I didn't feel out of place anymore. I wasn't invited to my girlfriend's work party because she said I'd embarrass her. Thanksgiving came early that year, not the holiday itself, just the feeling. It started the night Julia made chicken pot pie from scratch, crust and all. We'd spent the afternoon resanding the cabinet drawers because I'd rushed them the first time. The place smelled like wood dust and thyme, and when I looked at her dancing barefoot in the kitchen while the radio played some old Sam Cooke song, it hit me. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was happy. It was subtle but undeniable, like waking up and realizing you're no longer sick. Julia didn't care how I held my fork. She didn't flinch when I wore flannel to dinner or when I didn't network at her friend's engagement party. In fact, she loved that I talked to the bride's dad about classic Mustangs for 30 minutes over deviled eggs. "That's what I like about you," she told me on the ride home. "You're just you, no spin, no filter, no angle." I didn't know how badly I needed to hear that until it landed in my chest like something I'd lost a long time ago. A couple months later, I got a text from Sarah again. Just one sentence. "Sarah, do you think we could talk sometime?" I stared at it for a good minute before locking my phone. The old me, the one who tried to fix what wasn't mine to fix, might have answered, might have agreed to coffee, thinking closure was some noble thing. But I knew better now. Closure isn't a conversation, it's a boundary. It's looking at someone who once made you feel small and choosing not to shrink anymore. Still, part of me kept thinking about what I would have said if I had answered. Not to hurt her. Not to win. Just to be honest. So here's what I'd tell her, and maybe this is the part that matters most. I wasn't embarrassed to love you. Even when you were embarrassed of me. I wasn't ashamed of where I came from, what I did for work, or how I showed up. I took pride in it. And I took pride in showing up for you too, in the quiet ways you never saw. Like running out for tampons at midnight, fixing that rickety chair you liked, watching your favorite terrible baking show without making fun of it once. You weren't embarrassed because I lacked polish. You were embarrassed because I reminded you of something real. Something uncurated. Something not designed for Instagram. You wanted a plus one you could frame. I just wanted to be seen. And the truth is, I didn't embarrass you. You embarrassed yourself the second you let people mock someone who gave you everything without asking for much in return. Julia was sitting cross-legged on the porch when I got home from the shop that night. She had 2 mugs, one for her, one for me, and a candle flickering on the little table between us. "Long day?" she asked. I nodded, "But good." I sat next to her, sipped the tea, and listened to the sound of crickets filling the silence that didn't need to be filled. She leaned her head on my shoulder and said nothing. And in that moment I realized, there's no greater peace than knowing you don't have to explain yourself anymore. No more apologies for who I am. No more shrinking to fit into someone else's mold. Just me. Grease stains, quiet pride, open hands. And someone who sees all of it and stays. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.